Oh, we've got some really interesting topics for you today. I do mean that because we're going to be looking at some of the economic factors in the Tri-Cities area here. And our focus is going to be agriculture. You know, agriculture hasn't really been that sexy, I'd say, in the past couple of decades, but boy, it sure is a strong basic force that stays in our community and keeps us on an even keel. But now there's some other kind of exciting news that's happening in agriculture, and we're going to be able to learn about that today. Very specifically, we're going to learn about the Fabrio conference that's coming. It's not a conference, it's a trade show, an expo. Gary White is my guest today. He's one of a couple of guests that we're going to talk with. Gary White works at TRIDEC, the Tri-City Development Council. Gary is the Director of Business Retention and Expansion. So Gary, I know that, we first met when you were very involved in SmartMap, and I was with a company that also gave you a lot of support for that project. So how do we transition from SmartMap to this new project that you're promoting that's coming up June 12th, I believe?
Yes, ma'am. Well, Christine, thank you very much for inviting me, and I want to thank you for all your participation and support of SmartMap way back when.
Yes.
So, the reason for the transition, we produced SmartMap, which is what we call a horizontal manufacturing trade show. And horizontal means it didn't focus on any particular industry. It wasn't a computer show, it wasn't a car show, it wasn't a boat show. It was just a general horizontal manufacturing trade show. We produced it for 11 years. In fact, our last event was in 2013, and it was actually our most successful event. And it was a very successful trade show. In my humble opinion, it was one of the top manufacturing trade shows in the Pacific Northwest. And, it was doing well financially. It was doing well as far as growth, the number of attendees and exhibitors.
So then why did you change it?
That's the logical question. The only problem we had, or at least I had with it, was that it wasn't doing what it was designed to do, and that was to grow manufacturing in the greater Columbia Basin, Benton and Franklin counties. It was successful as an event, but it wasn't successful in accomplishing the goal. So I asked Carl Adrian, the president and CEO of TRIDEC, if we could terminate it, because there is something in manufacturing in our two-county market that is not only dominates manufacturing, but is a world-class cluster that I thought maybe as an economic development group we could help. And the reason, and before I approached Carl about this, I did a little bit of research, and according to the Washington State Employment Security Department, 45% of manufacturing companies in Benton and Franklin counties are in food and beverage manufacturing. 45%. 58% of manufacturing wages are in the food and beverage manufacturing cluster here. And this one, 68% of manufacturing employment are in the food and beverage industry. So obviously it dominates manufacturing in our two-county market. There's nothing else that's even close. The question, Christine, is there really anything that we could do as an economic development organization to further that industry along?
How could you make it bigger? Yeah.
What could we do to make it bigger and better?
Yes.
And was there anything? So my opinion is, if you want to find out something, you go out and talk to people. And so we basically put together a survey document in 2014. We did decide to terminate the SmartMap Expo and take a good hard look at this. We just saw the potential here, which in our opinion was absolutely phenomenal. We knew we had something amazing here. We knew we had a world-class manufacturing cluster. The question is, how do we approach it as an economic development organization, and can we have any positive impact on it? Or would we approach these people and they basically say, hey, Gary, well, leave us alone. We're doing okay. We don't need your help. So we did a survey. We identified 71 companies. 51 of those are in the beverage industry. 82% of those companies are wineries. No surprise there. We surveyed 20 food companies. The survey document was designed to take approximately 1 hour. And these were one-on-one surveys. These weren't internet surveys. These weren't telephone surveys. These were Gary getting out and sitting down and talking and meeting and understanding these people surveys. So, a survey document designed to take 1 hour, and for the most part it did, but in some cases it took 2 hours, some cases it took 3 hours, one case it took 3.5 hours, and the reason being is these people are phenomenally excited and passionate about their company, about their industry, and about where their company in that industry is located, which is in Benton and Franklin counties.
Mhm.
So we got some amazing information from these folks, and much to my appreciation, they didn't say, "We're doing okay, Gary, leave us alone." What they did say, yeah, there are some things that could be done to make our industry, which is phenomenal, even better.
All right, and so that kind of information brings you to one of the issues, brings you to putting together this trade show, this expo for
Yeah.
Brio.
Well, Brio.
And oh, yeah.
And don't you dare mispronounce that, Christine.
Oh, it is so easy to do. For Brio, people, for Brio. And that's coming up June 12th.
Yes, ma'am.
And as a trade show, generally those are kind of closed off to the general public, but can anyone attend?
Anyone
first of
can
all?
attend. It's an interesting dynamic. It is one of the recommendations in the survey that we do a local trade show to basically show off what we produce here in the Columbia Basin. So we decided, okay, we'll do that. It's become much larger than I thought, and I might add, much more successful than I thought initially it would be. We didn't make the decision to launch this. We made the decision in late November of 2014. Didn't actually start working on it until December of 2014. So we had approximately 6 months to put this together.
Mhm.
6 months is a short time period to put together a trade show, especially the very first trade show. But it's gone well. And yeah, it is true.
What is the biggest highlight, do you think, of what your planning shows already? I mean, who's coming to this thing?
Well, basically, it is a trade show, and I'll emphasize that. This is a trade show. We are opening it up to the public, which will make it different than any other event, I believe, in the Columbia Basin. So it's only $25 to attend, and the people who will be exhibiting will be beverage companies, wineries, distilleries, breweries, food companies. We're talking about local restaurants. We're talking about local food processing companies. There will be live music. We've got a couple of bands that we've signed up. So it's going to be a lot of fun. It's in the evenings on a Friday night, so it's February. It's June the 12th from 5 to 9 p.m. at the Track Center in Pasco.
Mhm.
And again, it's only $25 to attend. And it's basically an evening of live music, food, beverage, a good time. But the thing that's interesting is it is a trade show. We've got buyers coming, professional food brokers, food and beverage brokers, distributors, retail buyers. A number of exporting companies are coming. A number of Asian companies and organizations are coming. The Mitsubishi Corporation will be, their food division is coming up from Los Angeles to exhibit. The Hong Kong Trade Development Council, their office in LA, they're sending up one of their people to exhibit. A company called the Washington Export Group out of Seattle, which
Mhm.
focuses on Hong Kong and the Chinese market. They've got 5 or 6 people coming over. So you get to, it's kind of you get to kind of peek and see what's going on in the world of food and beverage trade.
Mhm.
And the large trade shows in this industry are not open to the public. You've got to be in the trade only, and you've got to prove you are in the trade before you can even enter the convention center. So it's a kind of a peek of what's going on behind the scenes, if you will. But it's kind of unusual.
So how many booths are you going to have? How many people are already signed up for it?
Well, as far as exhibitor booths, we will have a little over 100 based on what we've got today. And,
That's big.
And
That's
for a
really
first-time
big.
show,
Yeah.
we're really happy about that. We were talking about the Smart Map Expo. The very first Smart Map Expo we had 17 exhibitors. 17, Christine. This event, we're
that's
going to have
huge.
100, okay? And in my original projections, I was projecting 50. I thought if we could have 50 exhibitors this first year, it would be a successful event, and we're going to break 100. So I'm elated.
All right. So what does having this trade show here do for people that are in this industry? I mean, is this to like broaden their spectrum, is open their eyes about what is possible, or what?
Well, I think it's got several levels. A lot of the smaller companies, in fact, a lot of the medium-sized companies are participating because they want to expand their business. Again, we've got side point. When we first started planning on this, we thought maybe we could attract 4, 5, 6 industry buyers to come to the show. Trying to get industry buyers from the Seattle, Portland, Spokane, LA, etc., to come to a first-time trade show at Pasco, Washington, we thought might be challenging. As of today, we've got 22 buyers committed to come to
Why?
this.
Why do you think? What's the nugget? Why are they here?
Well, I think they're here because they're familiar with the Columbia Basin.
Okay.
They know we grow a lot here. In fact, I've been told, and maybe your listeners will correct me, but we are the #2 growing area in the United States next to the Central Valley in California.
Mm-hmm.
And we've got an issue on a positive side that they're struggling with, and that's water.
Right.
So people know we grow a lot here. They also know we are the center of the Pacific Northwest wine industry. You know, our wine industry has really put us on the map, and the center of that industry is right here in Benton County.
All right. Well, there's so much more to talk about. I mean, we have got volumes that we want to share with you. But also, when we come back, I want to add another element to the conversation. I mean, the food and beverage industry itself in the Tri-Cities area, the region, is so big. But there are a little subsections of that, and one of those is hospitality training. And WSU is starting a new program. We're going to invite the person who is heading that program to join our conversation. So we'll be back in just a minute. Stick around. All right, we're talking about the effect, basically, of the recognition of kind of the explosion of food and beverage in the Mid-Columbia area and how that is affecting our economy in an extremely positive way. We have with us Gary White right now. He is with Tridec, and he is organizing a trade show called Fabrio. And before we talk with our other guests, Gary, set it up for me that hospitality was one of the major issues that came out of the survey that you did. What was that all about?
Well, I found it interesting because, you know, technically, I did not. A question about a hospitality program was not even on the survey.
Mm-hmm.
This was volunteered by the survey participants. They kept saying over and over again, Gary, we need a hospitality program in the Tri-Cities because we need people that are trained in hospitality to work in these wine tasting rooms, to work in our restaurants, to work in our hotels. It's difficult for us to find people that we can just plug in. We've got to train everybody from the beginning. So if we're going to have a viable food and beverage region, if you will, we need a viable and successful and professional, top-notch hospitality program. And we're phenomenally fortunate to be affiliated with Washington State University Tri-Cities.
Boy, you know, there are so many projects here. The Wine Science Center is certainly one of them at WSU. The Walter Clore Wine Culinary Center in Prosser is another. And what we're going to talk about today is the new hospitality degree program that's at Washington State University in the Tri-Cities. The word you need to remember is Fabrio. Fabrio, Gary White said to me multiple times from Tridec so that I would say it properly. I won't even tell you the way other people are saying it, but the proper way is Fabrio. And it is a trade show, an expo that is coming up June 12th here at TRAC, a one-day event, one evening event, open to the public as well as a lot of other folks, and focusing on food and beverage. Gary, why is that so important?
Well, because it's our industry. You know, for all practical purposes, at least from the manufacturing side, that is it. That's what we do here. And we not only do it well, we do it extremely well, if you will. It's a globally recognized industry that we're bringing more attention to and trying to develop it and actually take it to even a higher level than it is now.
Take it to a higher level. All right, well, why don't you review with us, help us understand a little bit more about why this region of the country and of the state is so prime for agriculture and prime for the food and beverage industry. What do we got that other people don't?
Well, we basically have great weather. We're
Yeah.
experiencing that today. We've got a lot of land. And something that's becoming scarcer and scarcer, we've got a lot of water.
Mm-hmm.
And because of that, we have developed a very significant growing area here. In fact, if you look at a map showing the growing areas in the state of Washington, almost all of Washington State's agriculture, or at least the vast majority of it, is right in this area. I would call this the center of it. Benton and Franklin counties, and we also have Walla Walla County, Grant County, Yakima County, but this is it. This is where most of it is grown. Up north a little bit with Chelan and Douglas counties, but we are the epicenter of it. When it comes to the wine industry, we are the center of it. Most of the grapes are grown in Benton County. Most of the wine based on Gallon age is produced in Benton County. So we've got something going for us that's phenomenally exciting. Areas like Red Mountain are getting international recognition. People from all over the world now are starting to acknowledge the Columbia Basin as a food and beverage area in many respects because of our wine industry, but also because of processors like Lamb Weston. I mean, we are the French fry capital of the world.
Yes.
And so we've got a lot of things we can be very proud of that give us credibility in this particular industry. So we just need to wrap our arms around it and help it to grow and position it properly worldwide.
Well, you know what's interesting? When we used to think about agriculture, quite frankly, the image that came to my mind was a migrant worker in the field, and that was pretty much it. We were growing various products, various food products, and it was the worker in the field. Well, that's really, really expanded. There are so many other jobs and ways that people are making money out of food and beverage than what we thought maybe 20 years ago.
Well, we want to get into value added, if you will. We want to get into the processing side. I mean, what else can we do with what we grow here, with our cherries, with our apples, with our corn, with our wheat, potatoes, et cetera, et cetera? Can we take those and process those? An interesting dynamic, Christine, is we've got obviously a phenomenal growing area. We've got a phenomenal large food processing area, like the Lamb Westons, the Reesers, et cetera, et cetera. What we're lacking, interestingly enough, is what we call the specialty processed food industry. A good example here would be Chucker Cherries. Chucker Cherries is right in the middle of that. But based on my research, we should have 100 companies like a Chucker Cherries. We should have cheese manufacturers. We don't have a cheese manufacturer in the Tri-Cities. We should have cookie and cracker manufacturers and more chocolate manufacturers and companies that are specialty food companies that are complementary to the wine industry. When I was down at the Winter Fancy Food Show a while ago in San Francisco, and of course this is San Francisco, it's an hour drive from Napa and this and that, but I noticed a large number of what we call specialty food companies that had a Napa Valley or a Sonoma County address, lots of them. So I thought, oh, wait a minute, they're in California wine country. I live in Washington State wine country. We've got the wineries, it's growing, it's doing well, but we don't have this cluster of specialty food companies. So I think in many respects, that's where the opportunity lies in the food side.
That's where the new growth can be. So if people are out there thinking about, gee, I want to start a business, you would say, Gary, better start one of those, specialty foods.
I'd say give me a call.
Yeah. Well, the other thing I think is geography and just simply where this region is located, and because of that, what we have access to. Because you always have to get your product to market. I mean, we hear that over and over and over again. And we have, seems to me, some ideal situations there as well.
We do. And in fact, we've positioned the Columbia Basin as what we're calling the strategic gateway between America and Asia. And specifically focused on China. I mean, China is the fastest growing economy in the world right now. And some will say it's the largest economy in the world right now. And things have softened a tad, but still, it's growing phenomenally. And their whole middle class is larger than our whole population. And it's getting bigger and bigger and bigger all the time. And what do these folks desire? They desire American processed food and beverage products. So with the strategic gateway concept, what we want to do is we want to position the Columbia Basin as the gateway between North America and Asia for the food and beverage industry. And what this basically means is, from a recruiting side, hopefully we can recruit companies that are located maybe in the Midwest, definitely on the East Coast, or maybe starting to do some business on the West Coast, definitely want to get into the Asian market, particularly China. We could hopefully, and we're working on it, put together a program. If we grow what they need, they could locate here, manufacture their product here. We will have the infrastructure in place to help them get into the Chinese market. Now, on the other side of this, when we partner with the right Chinese partner, if you will, then they will work with us for companies that want to locate in America to service the American market. They will help us in recruiting companies to locate in the Columbia Basin. So we could have a company from Hong Kong, a company from China, be it Beijing or Chengdu or wherever, locate in the Columbia Basin. We will work with them to not only process their product here, but to help them distribute their product throughout America.
Well, China's huge. Why do they need to come here? What is that all about?
Well, basically, this is still a very strong market. I mean, it's a very safe market. A lot of these Chinese investors would like to invest in America in comparison to possibly China. safer long-term investment, supposedly at least. It's still a big market, and with NAFTA, it's not only the United States, but it's also Canada and Mexico, two other very viable markets. So it's basically a matter of and an interesting dynamic, Christine. A lot of the Chinese consumers today don't want to buy food products that are manufactured in China. There's been some horrendous stories about Chinese manufactured food products. So some of the Chinese companies are actually going offshore, manufacturing their product, exporting it back to China for the Chinese consumer, because this way it won't say made in China, it'll say made in Korea, made in the United States, whatever, and it's a much easier sell.
Well, that is a fascinating process, don't you think? I mean, here we have been, and we still are, and fairly so concerned about a lot of our jobs, and particularly manufacturing jobs, leaving the U.S., going to other countries. And now we have countries that will probably want to come here and use our best benefits.
Yeah, and it's interesting too. I mean, China's huge. Look at it on a map on the globe, and it's huge. But its agriculture sector is very, very small. They don't have a lot of land in agriculture. They don't have a lot of water resources. They've got some real issues when it comes to growing things. So consequently, you can't have a real viable processing industry if you don't have a real viable agricultural industry. Fortunately for us, we've got it both. We've got the agriculture right here. This is world-class agriculture. So consequently, if they want to expand their business, and again, we grow what they need, why not locate in the Columbia Basin?
So, did you say that we're going to have some of those Asian representatives at Fabrio?
Fabrio.
I'm getting into that.
I think we're making progress there.
I think you need a little song to go with it.
Let me work on that.
Yeah.
Yes, we are. Actually, the Mitsubishi company, everybody thinks of Mitsubishi as far as cars and heavy machinery and all this and that. But they do have a food division. They have a food division located in Los Angeles. They will be exhibiting at the Fabrio Expo. A company called Shonen USA, which is a Japanese company, which actually has a food processing facility in Grandview, will also be exhibiting. And the one I'm really excited about, not that I'm not excited about the others, but is the Hong Kong Trade Development Council. They will be exhibiting in the Fabrio Expo. And the reason I find this so very interesting is we have agreed to a verbal memorandum of understanding for the Hong Kong Development Council to be our partner, if you will, in Asia. They will be our portal into all of Asia, but primarily into China. So we will be working with them. They will be working with us. We'll be working with them to get our companies access to the Asian market. They'll be working with their Chinese clients to get them into the Columbia Basin market. And we're just starting to kick this off. We'll sign a formal agreement probably in the next couple of months. But we think we've got a partner that's literally world-class and very excited about this.
There is a lot going on.
This is a scoop, Christine. This is a scoop.
This is a scoop. All right. So we have a partnership there.
We do.
So that's kind of like step one. I cannot believe all that is happening. We're going to take a break right here, but we will